We begin today the Gemara, the 7th Perek, or the 8th Perek rather, of Masechta Bava Basra, Yesh Neichlin. This Perek will discuss the halachas of Yerusha, inheritance, the Seder of Yerusha, who's the one that will inherit first, and then after, and all different kinds of halachas regarding Yerusha. Zakte Mishnah, Yesh Neichlin Umanchilin. There are those relatives that will inherit and will also bequeath. The Yesh Neichlin, but there are those relatives that will inherit, but v'loy manchilin, they will not bequeath. And then there are those that are manchilin, that will bequeath, v'loy neichlin, and they will not inherit. And then bequeath.
Yeah, pass on.
Then there's a fourth category of relatives that are loy neichlin, v'loy manchilin, that will not inherit and will not be manchil, will not bequeath either. So what are now here the Mishnah will explain what are these four categories. If you have to have the next volume for that. Yeah, so you can take the regular Gemara. Okay, so the Mishnah weiter. Ve'elu neichlin umanchilin. So the following are the ones that are both neichel and manchel. Let's stick to those Hebrew words, okay? So it'll be simpler. Those that are neichel and are manchel. Ha'av esabonim, a father with his sons. So the father, if he passes away, so then first ha'av esabonim means that a father will inherit from a child. That's in a case where the child has none of the children of his own when he passes away. So then the one that inherits the child is the father. And the father also, when he dies, now the children inherit him. V'habanim esa'av, as the Mishnah says, the children inherit from the father. So you see that they inherit from one another. V'ha'achin mina'av, same also with brothers, if there are brothers of the father. Achin mina'av, if there are brothers that have the same father, that is. That's what achin mina'av means. Brothers, paternal brothers, they share the same father. So if a brother passes away and there's no sons to inherit, there's no father to inherit either, so then who inherits? Who's next in line to inherit? We'll see the Gemara, we'll discuss the Seder of Yerusha, but the next one in line to inherit is a brother. So again, Achim and Av, paternal brothers, will inherit one from another. That's the category of Neichlin umanchilin, the ones that both inherit and bequeath. Now, in the next case, Ha'ish esimai, a person to inherit his mother. So he will be neichel, he will inherit his mother, but he will not be manchel to his mother. He cannot bequeath to the mother. A man from his wife will inherit his wife, but not the other way around. She will not inherit from him. Uvenei achoyes, and also sons from sisters. So the preferred pshat that the Rashbam here says is, what this means is that if a person passes away and he has nobody to inherit him, so then the only one that's around that could inherit him will be a sister, then that sister will inherit a brother, and then when that sister dies, then her children will inherit that Yerusha. So then this is a case where a person will inherit from the mother that inherited from her brother. That's the preferred pshat Rashbam says. The example that Rashbam gives is by the Shvatim. B'chlal, the Rashbam throughout this Perek, here in the beginning, he uses the example of Yerusha with the Shvatim, Yaakov and the Shvatim and so on. So over here in this case, the Rashbam says, so you have Reuven and Dinah, and Reuven dies, and if there's no other brothers to yarshin him, who yarshins him? His sister Dinah. And then when Dinah dies, who yarshins her? The son. The son will yarshin her. So now it comes out that the son of Dinah yarshins the brother, the Yerusha from the brother that came to him through his mother. But that's only his own. Yeah. Well, it's a nephew really. It's a nephew really from Reuven that will be yarshining. Right? So that's one shot that Rashbam says.
Yeah, but who cares about if Dinah's children have nothing to do with Reuven? Dinah's children are the Yashim because of Dinah's children.
True, but the Yerusha though came from it's a relation though. There's a relation over here that you're yarshining because your mother is a sister to Reuven, and therefore the sons are able to yarshin from the mother. True, it's coming through the mother. You're right about that, but it's a case.
Doesn't belong to the mother because you're still making it tied to Reuven. Once it becomes the mother, it's the mother's already finished. No.
And a chanami, but through the mother it comes to the children.
What if Dina didn't have any children? Where would it go?
That's okay. That's not what we're talking about over here. Here we're talking about bnei achayos, the case where the children are yarshening from the mother that yarshen from a brother. And that there's another pshat that Rashbam says bnei achayos is similar, but the point is that if there's two sisters and one sister yarshens from another sister, and then the children could yarshen that Yerusha as well. The point is that in these cases, Neichlin v'loy manchilin. Over here, you will yarshen, you will inherit, but v'loy manchilin, you will not bequeath. Because over here, in this case, from the son of this mother, the Yerusha, there's no case where the brother will yarshen from her sister's children. Because that's a relationship that comes through a mother, and a mother does not yarshen her children. As the Mishnah here will explain now, the other way around. Right here, the Mishnah explains that ha'isha es baneha, when it comes to a woman regarding her children, or v'ha'isha es baila, when it comes to a woman regarding her husband, or v'achei ha'em, when it comes to the brothers of the mother. Manchilin v'loy neichlin. Over here, they could only be manchil, as the Mishnah just explained before, that from a wife, they'll be manchel to the husband. From a mother, the mother will be manchel to the children, but not the other way around. It doesn't work the other way around, that the mother yarshens from the children, or the wife should yarshen from the husband, or that the brother should yarshen from the sister's children. It doesn't work the other way around. So therefore, it's manchilin. They can be manchil, but v'loy neichlin. They're not going to inherit from the children or from the husband and so on. The truth is that what the Mishnah is saying here, the Gemara will point out that the Mishnah just said two cases which are really the same point. The moment the Mishnah says that the children or the husband is neichel, yarshens from the father or from the husband, and we understand that it already said that neichel v'loy manchilin, that they're yarshen, but they're not manchel to the mother, or manchel, a husband is not manchel to the wife, and so on. It's not really necessary for the Mishnah to spell out the opposite case. It just said that point before, that you're only yarshen, you're neichel, but you're not manchel. The fact that the Mishnah spells out both cases, it's really the flip side of the same case. The Gemara will explain why the Mishnah does that.
The bequeathing over here, this is automatic, meaning it's not halacha. This is that the mother cannot give an inheritance over to her. This case that we just had, that the mother cannot give an inheritance.
Again, a child, a son, does inherit the mother, but the other way around, that the mother should inherit a child, that there's no din Yerusha of a mother inheriting the child. If a child passes away and he doesn't have any relatives, that you always go by the paternal relatives.
Oh.
Now you have to, and there's a succession, and you have to, there's a seder, but it's always a relation. That's when they share the same father. You go to the father, or a brother, or then the father's brothers, and so on. But it's all paternal relationships. For the inheritance to go to the mother, or to a wife, or to a sister, to the mother's sister, so on, over there, because there's no paternal relationship, so there's no Yerusha, to the other way around. But that's why in this case it's the manchilin v'loy neichlin. Then v'ha'achin min ha'em, brothers that are only maternal brothers, they share the same mother, but they don't share the same father. So over here, loy neichlin v'loy manchilin. There's no Yerusha at all. They don't yarshin from one another, either way. Why? Because the whole concept of Yerusha, as I just mentioned, is only a relationship which is a paternal relationship. A maternal relationship, there's no inyan of Yerusha. Okay, that's the Mishnah. The Rashbam here brings more cases that it is possible for there to be a relationship by even a maternal relationship. If there's also a paternal relationship, the Rashbam brings an example for this. Okay, but I'm not going to go into that. This is the four categories here that the Mishnah says regarding Yerusha. Okay, so the Gemara starts. Just a second. No, it's not here. Sorry. So I guess maybe it is in the previous. It's not there. I guess it depends which volumes. I'm sorry. Zok the Gemara. Hey, you want to pass that Gemara? You can follow me meanwhile with this Gemara. Pass the Gemara, please. Thank you very much. There you go. Talk to Gemara. Maishna diktani ha'av esabonim. What's the difference? Why is it that the Mishnah begins? This is where I am. Why does the Mishnah begin with the case of ha'av esabonim, of a father that inherits from his children? Bereisha. That's the first case it starts with. Listni habonim esa'av bereisha. Why doesn't it say first the case of the children, the sons that are inheriting from the father? That's the case it should say first. Why? And the Gemara gives two reasons for this. Number one, why are we starting with a case which is something bad? That a person passes away in the lifetime of the father and he has no sons of his own and the only one to inherit is a father. That's a tragedy. That's terrible. Why wouldn't it start with a regular case of Yerusha, which is a person that passes away, and the son is the one that yarshins? That should be the case to begin with. Another reason to begin with the case of a son yarshining from the father. Kedichsev, the pasuk says, Ish ki yamos uven ein lo. If a person passes away and he has no sons. So here from this pasuk you see that who's the first one in line to inherit? A son. Then the pasuk goes on to say, what happens if there is no son? So then you give the Yerusha to the daughter. What's if there is no daughter? You give the Yerusha, as the Gemara will explain, that the next one it goes is the father. And if there's no father, then the brother. But the first one in line is the son. So why would the Mishnah not follow the order of Yerusha, the way the pasuk says it, that first the son yarshining the father? So the Gemara answers, the Tana of the Mishnah, Aidi the Asyale Midrashe Chavivele. Because the Yerusha of a father inheriting a son is not something which is explicit in the pasuk, but Chazal expounded and explained what it says in the pasuk, that a father could inherit from his son. So this is a drasha. So this is something which is beloved to the Tana to teach this chiddush that a father could yarshin from the son, and therefore he starts off with this first. You find this a few times. The Gemara says such a concept that the Mishnah will begin not necessarily in what's explicit and what's clear in the order of the pasuk, but it wants to bring you something which is a drasha first. Okay, so the Gemara now starts with this point. Umay drasha. What is the source? Where do we see in the Torah that a father inherits his son? Tanya, we learned in the Braisa. She'erai, when it says in the pasuk the word she'erai. Who is she'erai? Now this is in the pasuk where it speaks about a case, the pasuk that just mentioned before, uven ein lo, in a case where there is no son. So what does it say there in the pasuk? That if there's no son, so then the daughter yashins. If there's no daughter, there's a whole seder in the pasuk. But then in the end of that pasuk it says, "Ve'em ein achem la'av la'aviv." That is, unesatem es nachlosai l'she'erai hakarev elov. You should give the Yerusha to the she'erai hakarev elov. You decided this Gemara they have the pasuk. So who is she'erai? Says the Gemara. The Braisa says, "Zeh ha'av." She'erai is the father. And the Rashbam brings sources for this lashon of she'erai that we find that the term she'erai is used regarding a father. You could see in the lashon of the pasuk she'erai vicha, so on, other places in the pasuk where we see that it's a father. Malamed sha'af kaidim la'achin. From here we learn that the father yarshins before the brothers. Now the Rashbam points out that according to the drasha that the Gemara says here, and the Gemara is going to say this on the next daf, the order in the pasuk is not the order of the way the seder of the Yerusha goes, because she'erai in the pasuk is mentioned last. But according to what the Gemara is saying here, who's second in line to yarshin? If there's no son, the next one to yarshin is the father. So even though in the pasuk it says that if not the son, then the daughter. If there's no children, no son and no daughter, the next one in line is the father. But in the pasuk it mentions the father last. In the pasuk it says the son, the daughter, and if there's no daughter, then it's not them, it's nachlosa, you give it to the brother, and if there's no brother, then you give it to then you give it to the father's brothers, and then in the end of the pasuk it says she'erai. But according to what the Gemara is saying now, she'erai really belongs before. If there's no children, then it goes to the father. So the pasuk, the way we darshan these psukim here, it's taka out of order. That's what the Gemara will explain later. Okay. Now the Gemara goes on to ask, now Yachal, I would think to say, Yehei Kaidim Leben. Maybe the pasuk is anyways out of order. So maybe the case is that when a person passes away, the first one to yarshin is really the father, and even before the son. Talmud Laimar, but therefore the pasuk says She'erei HaKarev. That the HaKarev. Why is it saying HaKarev? It's coming to teach Karev Kaidim, that the one that's a closer relative, he comes first, and the son is closer than the father. And therefore the son yarshins before the father. We'll see soon from the Gemara why that is. Why the Gemara is concluding that the son is closer than the father, but because it says the term hakarev, it's telling you that the one that's closer in relation comes first, and therefore the son or the daughter comes before the father. Okay, but now the Gemara has another question in the order of Yerusha. So we said after children comes who? The father. But Umari Isal Rabbis Ulahoitzi Esaach. Why are you saying that Amabe that the son yarshins first and not a brother? Maybe I should say that the brother yarshins first before the son. Maybe he's considered to be a closer relative than the son. So the Gemara says, no, that can't be.
Where do we see that?
We're saying that karev kaidim, that the one that's a closer relative is the one that yarshins first. So the Gemara here is inquiring. How do we? For some reason, the Gemara came to a conclusion without questioning that a son is a closer relative than a father. That the Gemara doesn't question. We'll see soon why. But regarding a son and a brother, that the Gemara asks, how do you know that a son is a closer relative and therefore he yarshins first? Maybe the brother is a closer relative and therefore he should yarshin first. So the Gemara says, no, the son is closer. Because Marba Aniyas Ben, the son is closer to the father. Shekain, as we see in Halacha, two things that the son takes the place of the father. Number one, Kom Tachas Aviv Liyada. He takes the place of the father when it comes to the mitzvah of Yiyud. Yiyud is when a person buys a Amma Avriya, a Jewish maidservant, and he's able to marry her with the money that he paid to buy her. He's either able to marry her himself, or he's able to marry off to the son. So we see that the same halacha of marrying this Amma Ivriya that the father owns, goes on the father and on the son. So the son takes the place of the father regarding this halacha of Yiyud. And also another thing we see that the son takes the place of the father, ulizdei achuza, by the halacha of a property of inheritance, that you makdish to hektish. So there the halacha is that if somebody else, not the person that dedicated it to hektish, goes and redeems it from hektish, somebody else comes along and redeems it. What happens when Yovel comes along? When Yovel comes, it's going to go to the Kainim. It's not going to go back to the original owner. It's going to be released from the one that redeemed it and go to the Kainim. But if the person himself or his son, if the son inherited it, if the son redeemed it from Hektish, that is, then it's not going to go to the Kainim when Yovel comes. When Yovel comes, it's going to go back to the original owner. So we see that the son is takes the place of the father himself regarding Zdei Achuza. So we have over here two different halachas where we see that the son is like a father. And we don't find that by a brother. So therefore this shows that a son has a closer relation to the father than a brother has, as is expressed in these two halachas. So the Rashbam says that based on this, we understand why the Gemara didn't even bother explaining why a son has a closer relation to the father than the father has to a son. Because there is no halacha that we find that a father takes the place of a son. There's nothing. So therefore, from these two halachas, it's obvious that the son is closer to the father than the father is to the son. But regarding a brother, that's still not so simple. Here the Gemara is going to point out that there is a certain halacha that we do find by a brother, that he takes the place of his brother, that you don't find by a son. So the Gemara asks right now, Adarabbe, if you're telling me that you're learning all this out from the halacha, so Adarabbe, on the contrary, I can tell you, Marba Aniyah Sa'ach, that I can come and tell you that we should say that the brother is closer to his brother than a son is to the father. Sheken kam tachas achiv liyibum, because when it comes to the mitzvah of yibum, if a person passes away without children, and now the brother marries the wife and he takes the place of his brother, so that is only by a brother. The brother is there in the place of his brother for the mitzvah of yibum. So just like you're telling me that a son takes the place of a father regarding yi'ud and regarding stei achuzah, but a brother also takes the place of his brother regarding the mitzvah of Yibum.
If there's no children.
So the Gemara answers, that doesn't prove anything regarding an advantage in a brother over the son. Why? Because Klum Yesh Yibum, Ela B'Mokim Shein Ben. When is there the mitzvah of Yibum if there's no son? Ha B'Mokim Sheyesh Ben, Ein Yibum. But in a place where there is a son, there is no mitzvah of Yibum. Which means, Adarabah, the son, it patters from Yivum. The son doesn't allow the brother to come and do Yivum. So Adarabah, this itself shows that the son is stronger than the brother, has a closer connection to the brother. So therefore we remain with this point there, that the son is has a closer relative to the father than a brother is to a brother. Okay, now what the Gemara asks on this last point here, and the answer that we just gave, Taime de Ikahai Pirche. The only reason why you're concluding that the son is closer to the father than a brother is to a brother is because you just explained that you can't prove anything from the relative, the fact that he's a relative, that he's close because of Yibum, because there is no Yibum when there is a son. But if not for this last question here, this answer really that the Gemara gave, Hava Mineh, then I would have said, that maybe a brother is closer than a son. But the Gemara asks, why would you say that? Typically, why wouldn't you simply say the Hacha Tarti and V'Hacha Chada? When it comes to the relationship of a son to the father, that the son takes the place of the father, that's expressed in two things. Regarding the mitzvah of Yiyud and regarding the mitzvah of Steach, or not mitzvah, regarding Steach Chuzah when it comes to redeeming a Steach Chuzah from Ekdesh. So there's two things where we see that the son is like the father. And V'Hacha Chada. And when it comes to Yibum, it's only one thing, that it's a relationship of a brother. So why doesn't the Gemara just point out that here it's one and here it's two? So the Gemara answers, the reason it didn't say that is because Steach Chuzah Gufa, this itself, that by Steach Chuzah, that a son, it has that relation to the father and not the brother. Where do we know that? It doesn't say it clearly in the pasuk by Steach Chuzah. That halacha that I mentioned before regarding Steach Chuzah, that if it's a ish acher, if it's someone else that redeems your sada from hektish, then by yovel it does not go back to the original owner, it goes to kainim. But if it's not a ish acher, if it's a son, then it does go back to the original owner. How do I know there in the pasuk of Steach Chuzah that it's talking about a son? It doesn't say it there clearly. So over there, by Steach Chuzah Gufa, Mahai Taimu Hu the Kaimele Latana. It's for this reason that we've said over here that we say that the son is closer than the brother. Klum yesh yibum ela b'makim she'ein ben. So ha yesh ben ein yibum. This is the exact reason that we said before, that really when you look at the brother, you look at the son, each one of them only has really one thing that makes them close, either to the son to the father or the brother to a brother. By the son, it's the mitzvah of Yiyud. By the brother, it's the mitzvah of Yibum. And therefore, the only answer to explain by Steach Chuzah why the son is closer than the brother is to say that Yibum doesn't show any closeness. Why? Because if there's a son, there's no mitzvah of Yibum. So therefore, you can't say that by a son there's two things as opposed to a brother that there's one, because by Steach Chuzah itself, this question that we just asked you, this is the source to explain of why the son is closer than the brother. That there's no Yibum when there is a son. Okay, so that's a conclusion that the son is closer than the brother.